Good morning. Let us start with the next topic, logistic regression. In the previous class, we have discussed about the linear regression. That means a model which is used to predict the value for any particular event that you want to know or to estimate or to predict. Okay, we have seen quite a few examples, and also we have discussed about the equation of the linear regression. The yi cap. This follows the equation of the line. This follows the equation of the line, and then based on the y-intercept and the slope, you will have a value predicted for the y. And later I have shown you some example also. Tomorrow afternoon, we will solve a problem because we have a 2-hour slot from 1:45 to 3:35. So I'll take an example problem and I'll solve, and we can solve one problem. You can do it also. Okay. So I will continue the problem solving part of this linear regression tomorrow, because today for a 50-minute slot, today I will do the logistic regression. But the theoretical part explanation for linear regression was done. Okay. So based on the slope only, the value of the prediction happens, whether when x increases will y increase or not. So if the slope value is positive only, when x increase, y also will increase. Otherwise, when x increase, y decrease. So that is the idea there. So now in the case of linear regression, we have used it for prediction. So when you already have a model for prediction, why do we need another model that is for regression? So here regression is also a kind of a prediction only, but here what we do is we perform a kind of a classification. In case of linear regression, this x and then the y both are continuous variables. That means both will have a numerical value which are continuous. It could be discrete also, but generally it is a numerical continuous variable and they are quantitative. Okay. Whereas suppose if you want your outcome, this y, if you want your outcome to be predicted as 0 or 1. Say for example, you have an email, and by looking at certain keywords in the mail, you want to categorize that email as a spam or not spam. Okay, that is one example. Email as spam or not. Okay, and then assume there is a tumor, and by looking at the tumor details, we have to predict whether the tumor is malignant or benign. Okay. Suppose by looking at the medical reports of a patient or a person, we have to predict whether he has cancer or not cancer. Okay. So in these cases, the outcome is binary. That means either this or that. Okay. So if the outcome is a categorical variable, categorical means spam or not, it is not a continuous. The outcome is not continuous. Suppose if the email is spam, then I will assign a value 1. And if the email is not spam, then I will assign a value 0. Similarly, if the tumor is malignant, then I will assign a value 1. If the tumor is benign, I will assign a value 0. Similarly, for cancer 1 and non-cancer 0. So if this outcome, the dependent variable y is categorical, then we cannot use this linear regression. Okay, because the linear regression is meant for continuous variable and not for a binary or this kind of a categorical classification. Okay, and the equation for this logistic regression will be similar to the linear regression only. I can write yi cap equal to say instead of b, here I am writing b naught, like a beta 1x Like this I'm writing. So now here this is the intercept and this is the coefficient of x, and this need not be slope always, because we are going to see more variations on the logistic regression model. If you are assuming only one independent variable, then this can be considered as a slope. Okay. So now in this equation, we have to solve and then we have to get a value. So this value, what you are getting, this value will be a continuous value, but later that value should be converted to a value between 0 and 1 or 0 or 1. Okay. So in that case, we will be getting a probability value. What you are getting here is a probability value, or a, we also call it as a maximum likelihood. I think you would have heard of this maximum likelihood. You would have heard of this maximum likelihood. Suppose it is giving a continuous value and I'm converting it to a probability value. There are three functions which are useful for this, converting the y value into a probabilistic value, that we are going to discuss further. So that probability value, suppose if it is giving a probability value of 0.4 and if I have a threshold of 0.5, so if it gives a value 0.4, it is less than 0.5, then I can say that it is not spam, and I can say it is not benign or not cancer. So any value 0.5 and above, I can say it as a spam or a malignant or a cancer. So the outcome of this will be a probability value only. And based on the probability value, based on the percentage, I'm going to say that this person, since the probability value it is giving is 0.65. So I can assume that there are 65% chances that this person can have cancer. There are 65% chances that this tumor could be a malignant, and there are 65% chances that this email could be spam. So that way we are going to do a prediction, and since the outcome is a categorical, we are going to call it as a classification problem and not as a regression problem. Okay. So this is the idea of why we are going for a logistic regression model. And then based on the types, based on the different types of the dependent and independent variable, we have two different categories of logistic regression. One is, suppose if I have only one independent variable, then this is called as a simple logistic regression. Suppose if I have more than one independent variable, I have beta 2, say xj, and then beta 3, and then xk, etc. Then I can have any number. Okay. Then in that case, this is called as a multiple logistic regression. If I have only one independent variable, then that is called a simple logistic regression model. Okay. And next we look at the other categories, binary, nominal, and ordinal. So this binary, nominal, and ordinal categories of logistic regression, we will use only depending on the y, depending on the outcome or depending on the dependent variable. So let us see how this nominal, ordinal, all this comes into picture. I think binary, all of us know. As I gave the example earlier, binary means you will have only two classes, yes or no category, email is spam or not, malignant or not, cancer or not. Okay, so you will have only two classes, that is binary. All this is based on your outcome y. If the categorical variable y is of only two classes, then it is called as binary. Then we will have nominal and ordinal. Okay. So in case of nominal, when do we say it is nominal? Suppose I have some emotions like happy, sad, anger, fear, surprise, etc. Then all these are actually called as nominal. Okay, that means these are the classes when you give an image, and then if my program will recognize the emotion of a person, it has to identify what is the emotion being expressed by the person in the image. So it will classify the emotion into one of these basic emotions. So these are called as nominal. And when you say ordinal, for example, if there is a person who is going to a hospital, or if there is a patient who is in the hospital, he is under treatment, then there are certain conditions for his health, whether he is good, stable, and then serious or critical, something like that. Okay. Or suppose if you go to a restaurant and then you taste the food and then you tell about the quality of the food. So when you taste the quality of the food, you will tell that it is okay, and then fair, good, and then excellent. So here you are giving a rating. Here you are giving a rating, and also there is an order. There is an order that you have to follow here. So this you can give a number 1 or 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. So here there is an ordering to be followed. So if your outcome variable, the dependent variable, has to follow an order, then it is called as a ordinal variable. If it doesn't follows any order, randomly there are 5 classes and into one of those classes it is classifying, then if your outcome variable is of this category, then they are called as a nominal variable, and those type of classification we call it as a nominal logistic regression model, or this one is called as a ordinal logistic regression model, and this is called as a binary logistic regression model. So this is the idea, or the different types. So now we need to discuss between the differences between the linear and logistic. In case of linear, as I said, both the x and then the y are continuous, whereas in case of logistic, the input variable, the x variables, the independent variables can be continuous also, but then the outcome variable will be always a categorical. Okay, so the values that you are giving for the independent variables can be continuous, but then the outcome is always categorical, and categorical it could be one of these 3. Okay,
Madam?
so yeah, yes, any doubts? So in case of linear, both the dependent and independent both are continuous, whereas in case of logistic regression model, the input variables, the independent variables x1, x2, x3, all these are actually continuous, and then the dependent variable y cannot be continuous. It could be only a categorical of any of these types. And then the error what we have studied earlier is about the least square error, the difference between yi minus yi cap whole square, that is called the least square error, or we also call it as mean square error. Okay, so we will see how to compute this mean square error in the next class. And here, in case of logistic regression, we use a different category of error that is called as cross entropy. Is called as a cross entropy. So we'll be discussing more on this cross entropy later when we go for the deep learning. This cross entropy will be used. Okay. So now let us see how we have to convert the, when you solve this equation, you will have a y-intercept value and then coefficient of x1, x2, x3, etc. You will be solving for these values, and then when you substitute, you will get a continuous variable. How that continuous value can be equated, or it is making it to get an outcome in a categorical form. So for that, there are three standard functions that are used for solving. So let us now discuss those standard functions. So the first one is a sigmoid function. The second one is a logit function. And the third and the last one is a softmax function. Okay. This softmax we generally use for multiple classes only. When you have an ordinal or nominal, when you have more number of classes, we will be using that softmax. And then the sigmoid and logit are both complement to each other. Okay. I think you would have heard of a sigmoid function. Suppose if I solve this value, solve this equation, I get a value. So in case of sigmoid, suppose I write s equal to 1 by 1 plus e power minus, say this y cap. Whatever value I'm getting for this y, I will be substituting here. This is the definition for sigmoid. Suppose if this is z, then the general equation is 1 by 1 plus e power minus z. So whatever I compute here for this equation, I solve, that value will be substituted here. Since I have y cap, I have written y cap. So when you solve it, what will happen? I think you would have seen the graphical representation of the sigmoid. So this is like a S-shaped curve. Its value ranges from minus infinity to plus infinity. So any value between 0 to minus infinity on this side and 0 to plus infinity on this side will be, suppose if I have a value here, I will get a corresponding value on this y-axis within the range 0 to 1. Suppose if I have a value here, then I will get a value in the range 0 to 1. So for a value here, I will get a corresponding value like this. So likewise, for any value between minus infinity to plus infinity, I can get an equivalent value in the 0 and 1. So any value of the range minus infinity to plus infinity will be squashed into a range 0 to 1. Okay. So that is being done by this sigmoidal function. Okay. So suppose if it is giving me a value 0.4, or if it is giving me a value 0.7 or 0.6, then the value 0.7, say, I assume, say, if this is the cutoff, this is 0.5. The intersection, if I assume as 0.5, then this is 0.4 and this is 0.7. If I assume like this, then the value, if I'm getting, I always take 0.5 as the threshold, and then if it is giving a value 0.4, then we say that there is a 40% probability that the mail could be spam. And suppose if I get a value 0.7, then I will say that there is a 70% probability that the mail is not spam. or whatever, how you are going to assume. If you say 0.5 onwards, if you are defining, everything depends on how you define. Above 0.5, if you define span, less than or equal to 0.5, not span. If you define like this, then based on the values, it is giving a value in the range 0 to 1, and that 0 to 1 is actually considered as a probability value. Okay, so if it is giving a value 0.4, then it is below the threshold value 0.5, so you will tell that it is not span. If it is giving a value 0.7, if the sigmoid function, when you take the continuous, when you get a value here, and if you substitute here, you will get a value for s, and if that s is 0.4, then not yes, for that value, if you are getting an equivalent value here 0.4 or 0.7, then you will tell that it is only a 65% probability that this email could be spam. There is a 40% probability that this could be not spam, etc. So this is the idea of sigmoid. Log it is actually an inverse of this. In case of sigmoid, it converts any value from minus infinity to plus infinity to 0 to 1 range, whereas the log it, what it will do is anything in this range, it will convert to minus infinity to plus infinity. Okay, actually this is called as log odd. So the probability divided by 1 minus probability, and then if you take log odd, you will get a value. So that will be in the range 0 to 1, and that will be converted to minus infinity to plus infinity using this function, and then that will, based on that prediction, we can decide whether it is whatever category that you want to predict that way. And then next is the softmax. Softmax, we will use it for multiple classes. The range is once again 0 to 1 only. So what happens in the case of softmax is, suppose if I'm having 5 emotions, okay, and in the range 0 to 1, I will have a value 0.2, and then 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then 1.0. So I have this 0 to 1, I will split into 5 groups. If my outcome is of 5 groups, 5 classes, then I will split into 5 ranges, and then my value, this has an equation. So based on that equation, you will get a value which is of this range. I can give that equation. Or you can also see in the link that is being shared. It's e raised to zi divided by sigma j equal to 1 to k and j. So that is actually an that is a standard unit, and this is actually the exponential value what we are taking for this. If I represent this as Z, then I am taking the exponential value for this Z by divided by sum of all such values. I will be calculating and doing it. And right now we will not be solving or using this softmax or any of those here. Later on, when we go for the deep learning, this softmax is extremely useful, and we will be using only this softmax because we are going to do multiple classes classification. So at that time, in the deep learning model, in the last layer, we certainly be using this softmax. Okay. Next, we'll take some examples, and then we'll see how to formulate this equation and how to solve it. Solving using a Python program or a R program will be easier than solving it manually, because to solve this manually, we need to know the gradient descent algorithm, because it is not simple or easy like the linear regression to solve manually. We need to know gradient descent method. This is one of the optimization algorithm. I think you would have studied the optimization concept like convex optimization problem, or in optimization generally we will do either a maximization problem or a minimization problem. If it is profit, we will be maximizing. If it is cost, we will be minimizing. So this is considered as an optimization problem, and it has to be solved using the gradient descent, which we are not going to do it now. So we are not going to solve this manually now. But I will give some examples for this, and then we'll see how to formulate this equation with that example. Okay. Fine. Suppose you consider, I will give couple of examples, then we will do for one. Suppose you are getting a job, and then for going for the job, you need to decide on the parameters to take up a job. Suppose you are getting placed in 2-3 companies in Bangalore or some other out of station. Then if you want to decide which company to join, how will I decide where to join? Because we will be in a dilemma where to join. So there will be certain elements or factors which will be fascinating you or motivating you to join that company. So we can see based on what factors you will be liking to join that company. One thing may be the salary part, and the next is the environment or the ambience in which you are going to work. Say if it is a research oriented company, or if it is a programming company in which your expertise in that, or the projects what they are doing. Suppose if it is Collins Aerospace company, then if you are interested in developing projects for aerospace aircraft, then if the Collins Aerospace company is taking you, then definitely you will be willing to join because that is your passion. So that is one thing. And then the distance from your home. In Bangalore, generally, we don't prefer commuting far because of the traffic. So if you feel this is close by to my home, then I prefer to join that company. So if salary is negotiable or negligible, whatever, if salary is not a problem for me, if environment is good enough for me to join, or if distance is not a problem, then I will go for this. Suppose I'm not worried about salary or environment. I want a safe journey and a comfortable short journey. Then I will give more preference to this. Or irrespective of the environment and distance, if I want more salary, then I prefer to going for this company. So what we will do is we will assign some weight. So depending on what I will be interested in, what I will be liking to do more, or which one fascinates me, I will give more weight. So for this, I will give a weight of 0.5, and for this, I will give a weight of 0.3, and for this, I will give a weight of 0.2. That means my preference, my order of preference. So I have given more preference to salary and less preference to environment and least preference to the distance. So this is how I assume. Then so these are the values that I give. This beta 1, beta 2, beta 3 are actually the weight. We call it as weight. The coefficients of x1, x2, x3 are actually called as the weights. Okay, so I will assume like this and then I can substitute. Now we should know what is x1, x2, x3. So x1, x2, x3 are nothing but the activity score. Okay. So for performing the operation, I will assign some score. So that score is called as an activity score. Okay. Okay, so now for performing the, say if I'm joining the job, then I will be taking up a salaries, then I will have an activity score. In this case, I have chosen the person is doing a job only, so the activity score will be common. Suppose I take a different example. Assume a small child who is now attending the virtual classes, or even you attending to this virtual classes. So what we can do is, suppose if I'm telling you to play, then if I'm telling you to watch movie, and then if I'm telling you to study or take up a quiz, then I will give an activity score for this. And then I'll give a weight for this. Okay. So for if I'm telling the students to study, then if they are not interested, I will give a value of minus 0.7. And for doing a quiz, maybe I'll give a value minus 0.3. Whereas to play, I can give a value 0.6. To watch a movie, say 0.7. So anything that encourages the student to actively involve, or say if the student is feeling happy for the play and movie, then I give a positive weight. Say for studying or taking up the quiz, if the student is feeling sad, then I give a negative weight. And for performing the play, for doing that activity, I will give a score. This is randomly, I will assign some score. Only the weights, if I add of one category, I should get a 1, +1 and -1 of this category. So I have now 2 categories. So this is binary, a dichotomous category. So I have happy and a sad. So some activities I have listed here, and then I'm giving a score for this. This randomly we can choose. For doing this activity, I'm assigning a score 6, 3, and then 3 and 4. So now we can, this B0, we have to find that the y-intercept. Otherwise, the rest of the elements we can write like this. So 0.6 into 6 plus 0.4 into 3. Minus 0.7 into 3 and minus 0.3 into 4, and then this B0 we have to calculate, that is a procedure, and then after doing that you will get a value for this, and based on this, suppose if I'm using a sigmoid, then because I'm not going to have a multiple classes, there are only 2 classes, so I will use a sigmoid function, and then I will get a continuous value which I will map it to a range 0 to 1. So the sigmoid function will give me a value within 0 to 1. So if my value is 0.5 and above, then I will say it is happy. If my value is less than 0.5, then I will say it is sad. So that way we can decide. So now what are the assumptions that we are going to take while following, while formulating this expression, this equation? That means this x1, x2, x3, these activities are independent of each other. Okay, that means one watching movie should not affect the play. That means the student should have both the choices independent. That means, of course, they are mutually exclusive. We are not talking about that. That means one student will be interested to play a cricket match or play tennis, but at the same time, he has a passion towards watching movie also. That means if somebody is interested to play tennis, it doesn't mean that he will not have interest to watch movies. That means they both are independent. Okay, so these variables are independent of each other. That means watching movie means he will not play tennis, nothing like that. The variables what you are assuming, okay, these activities are independent of each other totally. Okay, so I'll just quickly recap on this assumptions. So the independent variables should be independent on each other, and then the independent variables are linearly related. They are actually linearly related in this linear expression. They are linearly related to this log x or the sigmoid or whatever. And then so for binary logistic regression, for a value of one of the dependent variable, it should represent the desired outcome. That means 0 or 1. And for this, we need a large volume of data. We need a large volume of data because I have written xi, xj, xk. That means it is not just for one person. We have to collectively take from all the students and find their interest, and then club all the scores, sum all the scores, and then multiply by a weight of 0.6 uniformly. Okay, and then it is independent of observation. Independent of observation means what? In probability, generally, suppose if you have a bag of balls, red, green, blue, yellow, if I just pick up one sample ball from the red bag, then next time I may replace or I may not replace. So the suppose if I'm replacing it, then the next time when I am drawing a sample, that is not dependent on my previous draw. Okay. So every time when I draw a sample from the ball, from the bag, that is actually independent of the previous activity or the previous event. Okay. So this is it is independent of the previous outcome or whatever we have done on the previous experiment. Okay, and then we also assume that there are no outliers. I will explain what is outliers quickly, and also we will see a reason for why a linear regression model cannot be used for this classification. Anyway, in linear regression also you will get a continuous variable. Here also you are getting a continuous variable, but we are putting into a sigmoid function. We are substituting in a sigmoid function to get a value within the range 0 to 1, isn't it? Then why can't we use the same continuous variable, and suppose if it is giving a value 0.657, then why can't we assume that as the probability value to decide whether it is malignant or not malignant? Why can't we do so that way? So let us discuss on that. Okay, and while discussing about that, I will explain what is outlier. So any doubts so far?
Ma'am?
Yeah.
Ma'am, so for this example only, ma'am, play movie and all, like what is the point of this example, ma'am, to check whether a student is happy or sad, ma'am? Or
yes, exactly.
Okay, yes.
Given this value, whether the student will be happy or sad. Say for example, to find whether the patient is having diabetic or not, we will be using some sample, say the glucose level in the blood, and then if the glucose level in the blood is above this range, then the person is said to have a diabetic mellitus symptom. Okay, Suppose I have some values 80, 90, and then 100, 120, 140, and then 180, 200, like that, etc. Suppose for this particular range, I keep a cutoff like this. If somebody's glucose level is above 120, that means 140 onwards, then I categorize that person as a diabetic patient. Okay. So what happens is when I plot, so this is my blood glucose level, then I can say whether he is diabetic or not. So if I plot values like this, then I may get a line like this. So these people are diabetic and these, above means this side. These people are diabetic and these people not diabetic, I can categorize. Now, all this will actually depend on the mean value in the linear regression. I'm talking about linear regression. I'm talking about linear regression. So, in the linear regression model for B0, B1 calculation, for B1, the formula is sigma yi minus y bar whole yi minus y bar into xi minus x bar divided by summation of I equal to 1 to n xi minus x bar the whole square, isn't it? So basically we are taking the mean of x and y. So the mean plays a very important role here. So suppose if I add another two values, say 300 and 400 I add, then what will happen is the mean will shift. The mean will shift. If I add more values, 300 and 400, say somewhere in the top, 300 and 400 comes in the top. So what will happen is the mean value will vary. Okay, so when the mean is shifting, what happens? This line also will get shifted. So this line, it will get shifted. So now what will happen is when this line gets shifted, obviously, it will not predict 140 and above to be diabetic. It may predict even 120 and above also to be diabetic. We never know. Or it may not predict even 140 to diabetic. It may predict only 200 and above to be diabetic. We will never know how it is going to be. So what happens is, suppose if it is predicting still 140 and above to be diabetic, then you see the range 140 and 300 or 400. The range is so broad. Whereas here, if you see the difference between 120 and 140, it is only 20. But from 140, the lowest element in the diabetic category and the highest value in diabetic category, there is a big difference, big gap. Whereas here the gap is small. So what it means is it is not having a proper measure to incorporate the outliers. So here, if you add 300 and 400 to this data, your classification or your prediction is actually changing. The mean is shifting, so the prediction will not be correct. Okay, it will not be exactly correct. So what happens is the 300 and 400 that you added recently, those are called as outliers. So what happens is, instead of having a straight line, we may have to make a complex line. So suppose if it is forming a complex line instead of a straight line, then what happens is it is trying to fit the outlier or the noisy elements also into the data, and then it is trying to fit that outlier value or the noise value into the model. So what happens is the line may not be straight, or you may get a straight line, but then there will be lot of errors. So the prediction will not be correct. Suppose it is predicting as 0.4, or if it is predicting as, suppose if somebody really has diabetic, it will not predict as diabetic. That is actually a serious problem. Okay. So that is why we don't use the linear regression model for doing any kind of a classification, whether he is having cancer, not cancer, or malignant or benign. In such applications, we don't use. Okay. So that's it. We'll stop here, and tomorrow afternoon, let us meet. And tomorrow we will be solving the problems. So please keep the calculator with you. You need to have a calculator, notebook, pen, etc. I hope you will be keeping the notebook and pen. I don't know whether you are writing any notes or taking any notes, but tomorrow it is compulsory. So we will be solving the problem for linear regression, what we have discussed in the earlier class. And logistic regression, we are not going to solve a problem, but you should know the concept, difference between linear regression and logistic regression. And then this can be solved manually only by using a convex optimization problem that we are not going to do now. But if you are interested, you can write a Python program or a R program to solve it. That is easy. And yesterday I have shared a Python program for linear regression. You can have a look on it. And also the values what I have showed was solved in an Excel sheet that is also shared. You can have a look at it. So we'll stop here for today. Thank you. Any doubts you can ask me or you can post a message.